Hi, Emma. Thank you so much for taking time to come and chat with me today. Would you take a moment to introduce yourself to our audience and also introduce your beautiful Tythe venue as well, please?
Thank you, Annabel. So I'm Emma Deeley and I'm sat here in Tythe, which is based in Launton in Oxfordshire. So we're a barn wedding venue. We've been running since 1998. So I think we're in our 26th year. So Will, my husband, and I sort of own and run the venue, but we're supported by a great team. And we tend to do weddings throughout the whole year. So I know we've got a couple of couples looking around today that you might see. But yes, so that's a little bit about us. The estate that we're on has been in my husband's family for over 5 centuries. And I think they're 10th generation farmers. So it's a very established estate that we're on. The barn is 14th century. Obviously, when we started years ago, it literally was in its raw state, and we would bring in all the sort of essentials that we needed for the day. But over time, it's evolved. And I think, Will and I have got a good agreement that I'm on inside and he's on outside. So I think over the years, I've probably put maybe a more feminine touch on what is a very rustic background, and that just tends to work. So when couples come into the barn, it's been restored, but you'll see lots of fairy lights and antique chandeliers. I've got lovely deep velvet Chesterfield sofas around the bar. So what I want them to feel, I think, is that although they're walking into this old building that's full of character, I want it to feel like it's very homely, and also that it's a space they can really put their mark on it. I always say to my couples when I'm showing them round that, Will and I are really relaxed, very, very chilled. It's lovely to see this old space being utilised today. And so we want them to look at it with a view to putting their own personality on it. And there's lots of different spaces where they can do that. So hopefully it's relaxed and and they feel like they're in somewhere special, but they feel at home. Tythe, we offer a couple of different packages. So it would depend, the flow of the day or the weekend might depend on whether you arrive with us the day before, or whether you're having a few days after the wedding day with us. But if we look at, say, arriving the day before, we've got this 17th century farmhouse, which up until 2022 was the family home. That's now available to couples and their guests. And they'll arrive with us the day before about 3 o'clock, and we'll put on tea and cake for them, and they settle into their rooms, and then they can enjoy a dinner in the farmhouse that evening. So a lot of couples like to have that sort of time, just that intimate time the evening before. In the morning, the getting ready is, so we've actually now got 4 different spaces that we can offer. Sometimes it will depend on the day of the week that you're getting married with us, but generally there's 4 spaces. So the bride may be in the farmhouse, where she's got a lovely sort of space that's we call the dressing room. It's a big open space with lots of light. There's a little champagne bar to the side. So she might be in there. And then we've just created for the groom a lodge at the front of the barn. So he could, if he wanted to, stay. If they wanted to stay separately the night before, he could stay in there. And then in the morning, he would pop over to the farmhouse if he wanted to have breakfast with everybody. Then he gets ready in the lodge with his groomsmen. There's all sorts of things for him to enjoy. So one of the things that couples will say quite a lot when they're walking around is, obviously the bride may be spending 5-6 hours getting ready with her bridesmaids, and the groom will sort of think, oh, okay, well, what am I doing? So anyway, we've provided him with a sauna. There's so at the moment, this is all a project in process. So we've got the lodge is finished. We're now creating a sauna and sort of an ice bath, a little clock golf and all sorts of stuff. So they've got, a number of activities to do whilst they're also getting ready.
That's amazing. Yeah, it sounds fabulous.
And it's all actually at the front of the barn, so which overlooks the fields, the farm. So quite often a lot of that will happen when you've got the cows and the sheep peering over the fence, which is quite sweet.
Oh, that's fab.
So then he will welcome guests as they arrive. He's in the right sort of location as guests arrive to host welcome drinks. And then once the ceremony takes place, again, we've got various spaces along the estate. Most popular probably is the wisteria aisle that I think you've featured for in one of our
it's such a beautiful feature. It's such a photographic feature, isn't it, of Tythe?
Yeah, it is lovely. So that's very popular. So it may well be that the bride walks from the farmhouse. We have also got a place called the Nook, which may well be where she's getting ready. But all of those lead very nicely to the pergola aisle, and that's where the ceremony might take place. And then we've got gardens, a walled garden that surrounds that sort of pergola, where reception drinks and canapes. If the weather's not playing ball, then the space that I'm in here is the cowshed, and there's glazing all down one wall. So what's lovely is if the plan was to be outside and then it's a wet day or in the winter, the reception drinks can take place in here, but there's a real connection with the gardens, so it's always really light. And yes, the glazing down this side just gives you a lovely view of the outdoors. And from there, they move into the main barn for the wedding breakfast. And then obviously the day is very much what the couple choose. So there's not a sort of a set format that they have to go through. So we will say to them, there's all these different options. You let us know how you'd like to sort of play it out. But quite often after the wedding breakfast, there'll be sort of post-dinner cocktails. We've got the whole of the estate's lit up with festoon bulbs, so they might come out into the garden here and have post-dinner cocktails by the wood burners outside, or they may well go into, we've got a pizza oven in here, so it might be that they go into evening sort of feasting. And the main barn is transformed into sort of the main party area, so we've got a dance floor at one end and then a bar at the other end, where we create sort of an evening lounge. So even though during the day you've got this lovely flow from gardens to cowshed to barn, in the evening we try and encourage the sort of the party to be in that one space, so everyone's together. So it's all in one space. It's you're from farmhouse to barn, you're only sort of strolling through the gardens for sort of 30 seconds a minute, so it's all very close. But there's all sorts of different options for you. Couples can hire the venue for as many nights as they wish, as many days as they wish, as long as we can accommodate it in the calendar. So there's no restrictions on that. We would just chat through how, particularly if we've got couples coming from, sometimes we've got families from America coming over and they actually want to have sort of the 3 nights, 4 days. That's absolutely fine. So, and usually those are the couples that would be looking for venues well in advance. So there's plenty of notice, but no, that's absolutely fine. Yeah. And we've also got a church next door, which is perfect. Having been doing sort of hosting weddings for so many years, you've got lots of systems that are in place behind the scenes. So, I think we've probably got literature on every aspect of the journey. So we can always send out information. So that's sort of the basic stuff is there for couples right from the get-go. But I think maybe where we go that bit further is, so my younger sister, Vicky, does a lot of the social media, and we have a bank of I don't know, thousands of images that can be provided to couples for inspiration. So I quite often will say to a couple, look, if you've got no idea where you're starting as far as photographers and florists and things like that, have a look at the Instagram, maybe select 10 of your favorite images, whether that's because of the florist or the photographer, and then we can guide you as to who the photographer was. But if that photographer is not available on your wedding day, then because we're so familiar with our suppliers, I can give you sort of another 2 or 3 different photographers that have a very similar style to that you could contact. So you can very easily piece together the day. We have very good relationships with our suppliers. A lot of them have been coming to the barn for a long time, but there's also no restriction as far as couples, if they want to bring a florist to the barn that hasn't been here before. It's
I
very
was just going to ask exactly that. Do you have like set suppliers that you'd rather couples work with, or are you pretty flexible when it comes to vendors?
I think so. We do have a list of, I call it the helpful bunch rather than recommended suppliers, because I feel like if I say to couples, this is our list of recommended suppliers, they may feel limited to that list. And we also don't take a commission, which I feel, again, is quite important, because, there's no benefit to us for the only reason those suppliers are on that list is because I personally have seen, and the team have seen, that they do an amazing job. So I'll say to couples, have a look through that list, explore the options on there, but, by all means, tap into other options. And also, it's exciting for us. Quite often couples will bring a photographer, florist, cake maker along that we haven't seen before. And, it's always nice, it's always evolving. So it's lovely to see new sort of talent and skills.
Yes.
Venue.
And then you're building your repertoire of amazing vendors that you've worked with and can trust at the same time as well.
And everybody interprets the venue very differently. So again, it's really lovely. Sometimes you'll see a photograph from an angle that in 26 years, I've never seen anybody take a photograph from there before. So it's great, so it's really important, the food. And I know a lot of couples, once they want to find the right venue for them, but I would say almost very close second to that is getting the food right. So it is a really important relationship for the venue. We're really lucky because we have in-house caterers, Absolute Taste. The chap that owns Absolute Taste does happen to be a really good sort of long family friend of Will's. It's another farming family. This area of Oxfordshire obviously is full of farmers, and we know obviously most of the farmers, but Nigel has such a great relationship with the local farmers that he can pull on all the local produce and create menus based on that, which is, when we were looking for a caterer, exactly what we wanted.
The seasonality, all the fresh local stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And I think, they're based opposite us. So they are actually quite a big company, Absolute Taste. However, we Tythe have a small team that only focus on Tythe. So there's the benefits of these big kitchens, but we have our own chef, and I can also give Nigel a call on a Monday and say, look, Will and I went to dinner on Friday and had this incredible dessert. We'd really like to see that, incorporated into the menus. And equally, couples can, the caterers aren't sort of, even though we've got our sets of the menus that we give couples as a guide, if someone came along and said, look, my granny used to make this incredible chocolate dessert, we'd like it on the wedding day, I would say tell Absolute Taste, because they'll be so excited. They're really happy to to try new things. So we've got a great relationship with them. It's flexible. And last year I wanted to try and personalize the food for the couples a little bit more. And so one of the things we've created now, which is turning out to be really popular, is the evening food can be adapted so it fits in with where a couple might have got engaged or first met. So if you met, if your groom proposed to you in Spain and you want to include tapas, you can. If it was on a Greek island.
Oh, what a nice personal touch. That's lovely. I love that idea.
Yeah, so that's proved really popular. But I think that, the benefit of having a caterer that we know so well and is so flexible is that we can have these ideas and then we'll work together to sort of adapt them, and equally the couple feel like they can really put their own sort of stamp on the catering. I think this is a big thing at the moment, actually, the entertainment. I think gone are the days when weddings just had you sort of a wedding DJ and that was it. I think we're seeing so many more sort of unique ideas coming through. And
tell us about some of those then.
Well, obviously the sort of roaming saxophonist, which is lovely, which I love. We've got a great guitarist who visits us a lot from Oxfordshire, and he does like a how would you say, it's like a jukebox guitarist. So people can come and write down the song that they want, and then he will play it on the guitar, and he's excellent. So that's lovely for sort of reception drinks, something like that.
Yeah.
But that, we've got quite often couples will bring in a band that we haven't seen before, and we had a couple this year approach us about 3 girls who bring a real festival vibe to the wedding day. So they've got a light up saxophone and they're kitted out as if they're off to Glastonbury, but the energy for that is amazing. Will and I have always said, for us, this is still very much part of the family estate, and we want couples to definitely feel that. And so most of the couples, I suppose, that have their wedding day here have bought into that already. And I think it's very popular that a couple are bringing in these very sort of personal, unique ideas. But it wouldn't matter if. So we had a French couple who wanted to have a very English afternoon tea, and we talked about whether we could do that in the gardens as opposed to being in the barn. We've had couples where really keen skiers, snowboarders, and they wanted to have an après ski type vibe. We bought a snow machine so that we could get that out in the evening.
Nothing is off the cards.
Yeah. But I mean, I love all that. I am a bit of I suppose I like getting creative. So as soon as someone feeds me that idea or sows that seed, I'll run away with it and get quite excited about how we can make that work. So I think, over the years, we've done a number of quite quirky weddings, but I think that's probably what Tythe's all about. Weddings are a lovely experience, and to be part of that journey. And I think because generally couples will book, it's at least a year, sometimes 2. So you get to know your couples very well over that time, and it becomes they're just becoming part of the Tythe family. I know it sounds a bit cliche, but I genuinely feel that's what happens. And you want them to, you feel very invested, and you want them to have the best day, and you want their guests to have a really lovely experience here.
Making memories, what we were talking about before we started recording. Those memory-making occasions in life are so important, aren't they?
Oh, they are. And this is, to most people, this will be one of the biggest days, isn't it, that they'll have, and we want them to remember it for years to come and feel very positive. And to feel that if they want to come back, we give all these opportunities where they can come back. And I mentioned earlier before we came on how we might do a Valentine's dinner, and it's so lovely to have a couple that maybe got married 15 years ago come back and have dinner here. And so
it's just like renew that memory, or that's really special, actually. That's lovely. I love that. Emma, I want to thank you so much for taking time to chat with me today. I think Tythe is the most incredibly stunning, beautiful venue, and every time I chat with you or a member of your team, I just get the loveliest sense of energy and positivity. So I want to encourage all of our audience who are watching this to take some time to look at your website and make that inquiry, because I can't sing enough praises for Tythe. I think you're fantastic what you do. So thank you.
Annabel, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on.